Okay. We've all heard of the saying, just when the caterpillar thought the world was over, it became a butterfly. Fascinating line. This is a very simple phrase, but it brings a smile on all of our faces when we hear it. When we hear this phrase, it brings a smile on our face. It brings hope in the face of challenges. It brings light in darkness. It sounds good, but the truth is that life is filled with struggles. Anger, sadness, relationship issues. And then when you finally think you've overcome all your challenges, it comes back in different faces and different images. When you think that you fixed your relationship, you realize something new came up. You spend your life fighting negativity. Sometimes you lose hope and patience to continue fighting. How many times could you ask for forgiveness when you got angry? You have an anger problem. How many times you try to be good and there you go, you just not succeeding. Now, what if you look at your struggles as your best friend? And you look at your struggles as they're guiding you to a beautiful path in your life. This is going to be the final point of today's class, and we're going to speak about the message of this week's Torah portion, which is the Shabbat after Tisha B'Av, which we all know is coming up on Thursday. So this Thursday, the 9th of Av, is the darkest day in Jewish history, destruction of the Holy Temple. The Talmud lists 5 things that happened on this day, beginning from the Jewish people in the desert. It's the day that the Jewish people were buried. Every year on the 9th of Av, Jews would die and be buried because they didn't believe they're going to enter the Holy Land. This happened in the 14th century BCE. Then the next sad thing that happened was the Babylonians destroyed the first Holy Temple in the 5th century BCE. Number 3, the Romans destroyed the second temple in the 1st century in the year CE. Now, it's also on the 9th of Av, we lost the battle and we lost any hope for victory. 50 years later, the Romans plowed all the fields of Jerusalem, and any hope of rebuilding the temple was lost. Years later, Jewish people on this day were expelled from England in the year 1290, and then expelled from Spain also on the 9th of Av in the year 1492. In modern days, Germany declared war on Russia in the year 1914, on this sad day of the 9th of Av. So it's a pretty sad day, pretty serious things happen to us throughout the history. On this coming Shabbat, we actually call it Shabbat Nachamu. Nachamu means comfort. God forbid something happens to someone, they lose a loved one, they lose money, something serious happens, so you comfort them. This Shabbos, we call it Shabbat Nachamu, the Shabbat of comfort. Mainly because it's the Shabbat after the destruction of the temple, which is the 9th of Av, so we call it the Shabbat of comfort. In this Haftorah, the prophet Yeshaya comforts the Jewish people. But it's a double expression, as you see here in text 1a. Nachamu, nachamu. Comfort, yes, comfort my people. Why a double comfort? Text 1b on the screen, because it's a double pain. First temple, second temple, so we need a double comfort from Hashem. Now, what were the two punishments? And what is the two comforts? So literally, it's because, like I said, we had the first temple destroyed and the second one. And therefore, you need two comforts. But we see this is not the only time the Torah speaks about the word nechama, which is comfort. Fast forward, after the destruction of the second temple, this story happened close to the area of the destruction of the temple, which the second temple stood for 420 years. It was the center of Jewish life for 420 years. There was a group of great rabbis that traveled to Jerusalem a little after the destruction of the temple. Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yehoshua, and Rabbi Akiva. Now, they all arrived to the remains of the Holy Temple, a very sad location. That's why actually when you reach the Kotel, there is a custom that you're supposed to rip your shirt as a sign of mourning because you're entering a location which something terrible happened. Now, they asked Rabbi Akiva, why are you laughing? Now, when these four rabbis, Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yoshua, and Rabbi Akiva arrived, Rabbi Akiva was laughing, and the other rabbis were crying. So they asked Rabbi Akiva, are you serious? You should be crying. You should be mourning. This is a sad location. We lost our temple that was up for 420 years. He really had a point. The rabbis had a point to Rabbi Akiva. They were crying and he was laughing. Rabbi Akiva told them the verse that we just mentioned from Yeshaya, which is comfort. And we'll see in a moment why he was laughing. Fascinating idea why Rabbi Akiva was actually laughing, smiling. Now, there were two prophets that were going to be in the future. One name was Uriah and one was Zechariah. They both witnessed spiritually, they witnessed the destruction of the temple. And Rabbi Akiva brought in his discussion with his friend rabbis these two prophets. Uriah lived in a century after the prophet Yeshaya. He lived in the times that Yerushalayim started crumbling. And he actually said prophecy that it's going to be destroyed. Yehoiakim, which was a king, killed Uriah for giving such a prophecy. Zechariah lived 2 centuries later, and his prophecy was, as we see here in 3b, he gave a prophecy exactly opposite. Look at the photo and look at the text 3b. He gave a prophecy that there's going to be a beautiful time and a hope for the Jewish people. Now, Zechariah's prophecy, back to the photo, is hope. Uriah's prophecy is destruction. Now, Rabbi Akiva brought these 2 prophets, destruction prophecy and hope prophecy. Listen closely to his message, to Rabbi Akiva's message. Generally, if 2 witnesses see that Reuven killed Shimon, let's say, you need 2 witnesses. 1 witness is not enough to prove that something happened. Here we also have 2 witnesses, a witness that witnesses destruction and a witness that witnesses hope. Rabbi Akiva found a silver lining in the dark. There's something much deeper to the story with these rabbis. And when Rabbi Akiva told his friends, have hope, don't cry, let's look at the happy days that are coming, they told Rabbi Akiva, you have comforted us. And again, they used the 2 words, comfort, comfort. But what was it in his words that caused them to feel the comfort? Let's go back for a moment to what we started in the beginning of the class. Personal struggles for a purpose. Let's speak about 2 areas of pain that are connected to personal struggles. First of all, we have all harsh realities. You might have a harsh reality of your current situation. You're in a hard relationship. You have a lot of pressure. You have a hard time staying motivated in work. You might have bad habits that are hard to get rid of. You're not able to sleep by night. You have a tight stomach because you're full of stress. You have a hard time focusing. You have all these issues going on internally and externally, and life is full of challenges. That's one idea. Now, number 2, you dread the persistence of the problem. You think to yourself, is this ever going to stop? Am I ever going to get out of this? Am I ever going to get healthy? Am I ever going to have a good relationship? Am I ever going to get a good job? Am I ever going to be happy? Am I ever going to stop worrying? Well, reframe the problem, as Rabbi Akiva did. Rabbi Akiva was the master to reframe everything. He always looked at the bright future. Rabbi Akiva himself was traveling, and he brought with him many different items. As we all know the famous story. He went to stay at someone's house. He was traveling, he knocked on someone's door, they refused to let him in to stay in the house. He had a donkey, he had a rooster, and he had a candle. A wind came and blew out the candle. A cat came and ate up the rooster, and a lion came and ate up the donkey. Rabbi Akiva was left in the dark and had nothing with him. He said everything that God does is for a good reason. In the morning, he found out there were robbers that attacked the whole town. Had his candle been burning, they would have found him. Had the rooster been there, the rooster would have made noise and they would have found him, and the same thing with the donkey. And God saved his life. And Rabbi Akiva, right away when it happened, he said it's for a good reason. And right away we saw the bright future. Rabbi Akiva refrained from negative circumstances to growth, to positive growth. Rabbi Akiva was not raised in a home of religious parents. He wasn't raised in a home of great Torah scholars. He couldn't even read Hebrew till he was 40 years old. Which brings us to another story in text number 6, that Rabbi Akiva was 40 years old and he couldn't even read Hebrew and he was struggling. And he was walking down the street and he saw a little water dropping on a rock. And he said, who made a hole in this rock? And he realized that the water actually made a hole in the rock. So Rabbi Akiva said, if water, which is soft, could make a hole in something hard like the rock, the words of Torah that are hard like metal, as we all know spiritually, could definitely make a hole, so to speak, in flesh and blood, meaning my brain, my hard brain, which hasn't studied in 40 years, still has a chance. And he went and studied and became a great Torah scholar. We all know he had over 24,000 students. With enough work and hard work, Rabbi Akiva taught us the message, everything's possible. Rabbi Akiva was so poor. His wife agreed that he should go for many years to study Torah. He never felt hopeless. He knew the future is good. He worked hard until the Torah permeated his heart and his brain. There was a lot of frustration, a lot of setbacks, but in the end, he got there. He was a leading figure in the Torah. Rabbi Akiva had the strength to turn himself away from a hopeless situation to dream in an ambitious way for the future and to believe that he's going to be successful. This what brought the middle-aged shepherd, Rabbi Akiva, to be a great Jewish leader. He always believed in a better tomorrow. Rabbi Akiva awakens us to let go of our negative and believe in the future. Believe that things will be good. With hard work, you will be able to change it. Your relationship will get better. Your job will get better. Your mood will get better. Be passionate and persistent. Keep at it. And this is what allowed Rabbi Akiva to laugh. Although he was in front of the remains and the destruction of the temple, but he looked at the bright future. Now, this all sounds very nice, but here is one issue. We know that tomorrow, or in a month, or in a year, it will be better. But what can we do now? What can we do now with our pain? How do we put up with our current situation? Why do I have struggles today? How could I bring meaning to these struggles? I know the future will be nice, but it takes time. And it could be in the future will never be good. What does it help me that Rabbi Akiva's future was good? Maybe mine will not.
Rabbi Mann?
Yes, Steve.
Sorry to interrupt, but your words are very ironic because Rabbi Akiva met a horrible death. So his future was horrible. And there's a midrash where Moses was with Hashem, wondering what those crowns are on the letters. And Moses is transported to Rabbi Akiva's classroom to see that. And then he also saw Rabbi Akiva's death. So everything that you're saying, he died a horrible death. And he might have been up until that point, and Moses saw that. So I'm just wondering, how do you reconcile all the wonderful things he did? And then Hashem said to Moses, don't ask. That was his fate.
Right.
So can you
But
either,
ultimately, yeah, that's a very good point. But ultimately, his life till his death was a very beautiful life. Yes.
but he's did all those things because it was within him to do it, but he wasn't doing it for some reward because he met a horrible death. He didn't shun teaching Torah. Who knows if he would have known.
It also happens to be that Rabbi Akiva actually requested Hashem that he should die al kiddush Hashem, which is the type of death he had. In other words, dying for the sake of God and dying because you're a Jew. That was his request. He said, Masa yavai leyadi v'akaimenu. When will I be able to reach this level of dying al kiddush Hashem?
So not comparing anything to like his life, but we should just do good things, but you can't expect rewards for good deeds you do, right? You just do them because you want to do them, but there's no guarantees that you do them and good things will happen.
But we do daven and ask Hashem that our current life in this world should be
meaning, right?
Yeah.
But you never know, right?
Yeah. So we're going to explain now that let's look back at the creation of the world. There's a fascinating statement here in text number 7a. It says, after Hashem finally finished creating the world in 6 days, and Hashem sort of was proud of his creation, and he said, V'hinei tov lo, it was beautiful, all of this. He was proud of the world he created. Not only it was good, but it was very good. Good is one thing, but it was very good. Now, if you look in 7b, there's a very puzzling statement. It says, very good tov, good refers to the person, and which is the Yetzer Tov, the good side, our godly soul, and Me'od refers to the Yetzer Hara. So good refers to the positive soul, the good soul, and Tov Ma'od, which is very good, refers to our evil inclination, which is inside us. But wait a minute. Yetzer Hara shouldn't be very good. Why is it very good? It causes us to have inappropriate thoughts, to sin, to steal, to eat not kosher, to not keep Shabbos. What do you mean? It's a negative instinct. But here comes the thing. Your desires, your pleasures are very important because it motivates you to leave your bed in the morning. If you didn't have a desire to make money, which money is a physical thing, then you wouldn't get out of bed in the morning. If you didn't feel hungry, you wouldn't eat. If you weren't scared, you wouldn't buy a home. You would live in the street. Competition makes you move. But why do we call the Yetzer Hara very good? Maybe it's good, but why do you call him very good? Well, Hasidus gives us a very powerful message. Only through the Yetzer Hara could the Yetzer Tov be good. So Yetzer Hara, which is negative, Yetzer Tov, which is your positive instinct inside. The most outstanding personal achievements are born out of the most trying circumstances. So again, when life is tough, sometimes you get to the strongest heights that you would have never reached to otherwise. It's almost the example. Water flows regularly. Look at the bay. The water's flowing. It flows into different areas. But when you put up a wall and you block the water and then you destroy that wall, all of a sudden the water starts pushing with a strong force. The same thing is here. You need a force. It's called our struggles. If there was no opposition and there was nothing that's pushing us, we would be limited in our positive behavior. Creativity wouldn't exist. We wouldn't achieve anything remarkable in our lives. There would be no effort because you wouldn't need effort. God didn't want average human beings. He has plenty of those. Those are angels. He wanted something on a higher level. Therefore, he wired us that we have struggles in our life to overcome the resistance and expand ourselves, become stronger, like the force of the water. We are stronger and have more power than any angel. Utilize it to your potential. Utilize it for your benefit. Win the challenges through your weight. Your evil inclination is not your enemy. He is your secret friend. He asks you to dig deep, become creative. Is the evil inclination good? No. Is it very good? No. But it helps us to go into our potential. We all know. Use your shortcomings to your benefit. Think of something in your life that went sour. Think of something in your life that didn't go the way you wanted. And see how you sometimes utilize that negative situation to something extremely positive. This is the message that Rabbi Akiva gave his friends, Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Eliezer, and Rabbi Yeshua. Of course, the Holy Temple is going to be built in the future. Of course, the circumstances will be good in the future. What's with now? What's the current situation? Transformation of the Jewish people. The destruction actually transformed the Jewish people. Despite the destruction. Not only despite the destruction, but because of the destruction. Maybe it brought more unity. Maybe it helped the flourishing of the Jews. Of course, we never asked for it. But once it happens, we utilize it to our benefit. You know, when you plow a field, you take the top layer of soil and you turn it 100 degrees, 180 degrees. The growth of the soil on the top is turned to the bottom, and the moist from the bottom comes to the top. Why would you do that? Why would you take the bottom and bring it to the top and take the top and bring it to the bottom? Well, the simple answer is because you want that damp soil. You're destroying to build. Now, the destruction of the temple was terrible, but it's going to be rebuilt stronger. And this was the response to Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua. And then they replied and they said, Nichamtanu means you have comforted us. And this is the point we're bringing out. You have comforted us, which means the students had two problems. When are we going to leave the destruction and this exile? And even if we leave, why do we need this exile? And Rabbi Akiva told them, we're going to leave this exile, be patient. And also Rabbi Akiva spoke from personal experience, from his struggles. Utilize your struggles to your benefit. Don't let it make you lazy and depressed and sad. Utilize it for your benefit. And they told Rabbi Akiva, you comforted us. Look at your enemy in his eyes. Look at the exile in its eyes and dig deep. Utilize it for your growth. And this is the month of Menachem Av that we are in right now. And the Shabbat that's coming up is the Shabbat of comfort. This is a time to build a bridge between your disappointments of the past to opportunities of the future. Rabbi Akiva's message in this week's Haftorah: comfort, yes, comfort my people. Reflect on the current situation. Be patient with an uncomfortable situation. Be optimistic about the future. And if you have personal pain, this is a message to start your homework. Work on yourself. Enhance your way of looking at things. Change your attitude. You know, there's an interesting story said about a donkey. This man had an old donkey that he would walk around with. And one day it fell in a ditch and he could not get it out. So the man said he was listening to the donkey screaming and crying, trying to get out of the pit. So the man thought to himself and he said, you know, this donkey is so old anyway. He's going to die very soon. I'll just bury him in this pit. So he took a shovel, he took dirt, and he started pouring it on the donkey. And meanwhile, I was listening to the donkey crying and screaming, but he said, forget it. He's an old donkey. I'll just push him into the pit. And as he's digging more and more and more, he's filling the pit up with dirt. Before he knows it, he sees the donkey climbing out of the pit. The donkey used the dirt that was being pushed on him to bury him deeper into the ground. He used that dirt to climb up and get out of the pit to survive. So he used the most negative situation for a positive situation. And this is the lesson we take from Rabbi Akiva's story. Take the negative, switch it to positive. Use your negative. Use your challenges to become positive and become your best friend. Any questions?
Okay, quick question.
Yes, Nissim.
I don't want to sound callous with this question, so don't judge me on this, but it's the one. Okay, it's the one time of year that I find it very hard to relate to. Tisha B'Av. Yom Kippur. I think about the community. I think about the Yidden, and I think about the history, and it's atoning, and it feels good. I could totally relate to it, getting a clean slate, and it's a Yom Tov, Tisha B'Av, I'm not sad, and maybe it's because when we learned about the destruction of the temples, the Jews, we always heard, hated each other, or there was a lot of sinas chinam, which caused it. There were sacrifices. It was a different time. I just find it so hard to connect. And if there's, I know our shir is over now, but maybe if there's just one tidbit, like al regalach, something that could help me connect a little or feel it because I'm
You know,
not going
I
to pinch myself.
I think that's a very good question, but I think the destruction of the temple, first of all, to start with something positive, we're not so sad. We're not supposed to be so sad anymore, so to speak. We're supposed to be happy because we believe that very soon is going to be the building of the third holy temple. And that's actually why many people today don't do the tikkun chatzot that's done in the middle of the night for the crying of the destruction of the temple. And we put the ashes on our forehead. Some people used to, and maybe some people still do it in the middle of the night. But the bottom line is we have a very important idea that we're preparing for the future, and we're happy that very soon we're leaving this exile. But destruction of the temple that we're crying about is not only the destruction of the bricks and the bricks and whatever it was, and the Kodesh HaKadoshim and all the holy things, but we're more crying over our exile, that we don't have the prophets, we don't have the light, we don't feel godliness, there's terrible suffering in the world, we're in danger in many places in the world, and not as it used to be, but we need the light and the redemption of the Mashiach so we can live a full-on Jewish life. And that's what we're crying about. Now, is it easy to feel? Not necessarily, but once you start realizing the current state we're in, I mean, we're not in a peaceful days. We don't have, God forbid, torture and suffering, but you're crying not for the physical temple. Okay, that was a temple, which is of course, but it's everything that it comes with, So
Thank you.
That's
Rabbi, I have
partial
a
answer.
follow-up question.
Okay.
I feel the
All
same.
right, everyone.
There was the
And
next one.
by the way, the Thursday is a fast day, and it's customary for the 9 days, which is almost over, not to eat meat, not to drink wine. If you could, you shouldn't do laundry, you shouldn't take a haircut, and all these things shouldn't be done till Friday afternoon. Now, the fast starts wherever you are. It starts at sunset, and then the fast is over an hour approximately after sunset on Thursday. So drink a lot of water, especially if you're in Florida, and everybody an easy fast. And hopefully before that, we'll already have the redemption of the coming of the Mashiach. Thank you all for joining, and sei gesund.
Thank you.
Take care.
Great class and great lessons.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.